Imagine a barefoot Filipino boy who spends his days selling rusty tools on dusty streets, standing on the biggest stage in America. Judges expect nothing. The crowd barely notices him. Then he opens his mouth, and within seconds, the entire theater is in tears. This is not just a performance. This is a life-changing moment you will never forget. If stories of hope, struggle, and unbelievable talent inspire you, make sure you subscribe now, because stories like this deserve to be heard. In a small coastal town in the Philippines, where the sun rises early and poverty never sleeps, a boy named Mateo woke up every morning before dawn. He was only 13, but life had already given him responsibilities heavier than most adults would ever carry. While other children prepared for school, Mateo prepared his small wooden box filled with old hammers, pliers, and screwdrivers he collected from junkyards. These were the tools he sold on the roadside, shouting politely to passing strangers, hoping someone might stop. Every peso mattered because at home waited his sick mother and 2 younger siblings who believed their kuya could fix anything, even a broken future. Mateo had discovered his voice by accident. One evening, while sitting near the shore after a long day of selling tools, he sang quietly to calm his crying sister. The waves carried his voice across the water, and fishermen nearby stopped what they were doing. They had never heard anything like it. His voice was soft but powerful, filled with pain and hope at the same time. From that day on, singing became Mateo's escape. He sang while walking the streets, while fixing broken tools, while dreaming of a life where his family didn't have to choose between food and medicine. Despite his talent, Mateo never imagined singing could change his life. Dreams were expensive, and his reality was cheap and harsh. Then one day, a tourist recorded him singing while selling tools and uploaded the video online. The clip showed a thin boy in worn clothes, holding a hammer in one hand and singing with a voice that didn't match his appearance. The video spread faster than anyone expected. Millions watched. Comments poured in from all over the world, including one message that would change everything. It was an invitation to audition for America's Got Talent. The idea sounded impossible. Mateo didn't even own a passport. He had never been on a plane. He barely spoke English. But the production team believed in him and helped arrange everything. The night before his departure, Mateo stood outside his small house, holding his mother's hand. She told him that no matter what happened, he had already made her proud. He promised her he would sing with his whole heart, for her, for his siblings, and for every child who felt invisible. When Mateo arrived in America, everything felt overwhelming. The lights were brighter. The buildings were taller. The people moved faster. Backstage at AGT, surrounded by confident performers with flashy outfits, Mateo stood quietly in the corner wearing the same simple clothes he had traveled in. Some contestants looked at him with curiosity, others with doubt. A few whispered, assuming he was just another sad story. Mateo felt fear creeping in, but he remembered the sound of waves back home and took a deep breath. When his name was called, Mateo walked onto the stage slowly. The judges smiled politely but without much expectation. Simon Cowell leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Sofia Vergara whispered to Howie Mandel that he looked nervous. Terry Crews gave him an encouraging nod from the side of the stage. When asked about his life, Mateo spoke honestly. He talked about selling tools, about his mother's illness, about singing to survive. The audience listened, but no one was prepared for what came next. The music began. Mateo closed his eyes. For a moment, the massive theater disappeared. He was back home, standing barefoot on warm sand, singing to the ocean. Then his voice filled the room. It was pure. It was emotional. It carried years of struggle in every note. The audience froze. Within seconds, jaws dropped. Some people covered their mouths. Tears rolled down cheeks. Simon leaned forward, his expression changing completely. Halfway through the song, something unexpected happened. Mateo's voice cracked, not from lack of skill, but from emotion. The crowd held its breath. Instead of stopping, he sang through the pain, turning the crack into something raw and real. That moment broke everyone. By the final note, the entire theater was on its feet. Judges were wiping their eyes. The applause felt endless. Before the judges could speak, Terry Crews walked onto the stage, visibly emotional. He said that he had seen many performances, but very few that touched the soul the way Mateo's had. Then, without warning, Sofia Vergara stood up and slammed the golden buzzer. Gold confetti rained down as Mateo dropped to his knees, overwhelmed, crying uncontrollably. The crowd roared. It was a moment frozen in time. Backstage, Mateo held the golden buzzer medal tightly, still in disbelief. He called his mother through a video call. When she saw the confetti and heard the cheering, she cried harder than she ever had before, not from pain, but from joy. That night, Mateo didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, wondering how a boy who once sold tools could now sell out theaters with his voice. But the journey didn't become easy. As the competition progressed, pressure increased. Critics questioned whether his story was carrying him more than his talent. Online comments became divided. Some supported him passionately, while others doubted his ability to compete with trained singers. Mateo saw the comments and felt the weight of expectations crushing him. He almost quit. The twist came when Mateo lost his voice just days before the semifinals. Doctors warned him not to sing. Panic set in. This was his chance, and it was slipping away. That night, he sat alone in his hotel room, holding one of the old tools he had brought from home for luck. He remembered who he was before the stage, before the fame. He realized that even if he failed, he had already changed his family's life. Against medical advice, Mateo stepped onto the stage. He chose a different song, one softer, one that allowed him to sing with restraint. Instead of forcing his voice, he let emotion guide him. The performance was intimate, almost whispered at times. The audience leaned in, listening carefully. By the end, the silence was followed by thunderous applause. The judges praised his courage and authenticity. Mateo didn't just compete. He inspired. Donations poured in for his family. His hometown built a small music school in his name. Children who once sold alongside him now dreamed bigger. Whether he won the competition or not stopped mattering. He had already won something far greater. In the finale, as Mateo stood under the lights one last time, he looked directly into the camera and smiled. Not the shy smile of a poor boy, but the confident smile of someone who had faced the world and sung anyway. His voice echoed across America, across oceans, back to the small town where it all began. And as the final applause faded, one thing was clear. This was not just a golden buzzer moment. This was proof that talent can rise from anywhere, even from a dusty street where a boy once sold tools just to survive.